A new champ is crowned on ESPN. We are making the rounds here on ESPN.com. Jim Basketball alongside Brian Campbell. Stiverne powered his way through Chris Arreola in their rematch on Saturday with a 6-round TKO. He's now a heavyweight title holder. Brian, what did you learn on Saturday night?
Jim, I learned, you match two fun fighters, you put something at stake. This heavyweight division can still really give you some compelling television here. And look, Stiverne, very patient in his attack, wasn't afraid to give away a few rounds, settling back as a counterpuncher to sort of read what he had in front of him. He had a determined Arreola who was trying to gain revenge from that first fight, and Stiverne stood his ground, waited for the right time, came through with that big right hand, and Jim, just like in the first fight, when he connected with that, the whole tenor of the match changed.
All right, bigger question though, how will Stiverne give Vladimir Klitschko, who is known as the real champ, a real test?
This is a tall task for anybody, pun intended, of course. Look, Klitschko, he gets by on that size and power, but just as well on that boxing ability and that amateur pedigree. I can't jump out here and say that Stiverne gives me reason to believe he can beat Vlad, but I think he would do a lot better than a lot of the candidates we've seen. Outside of David Haye, maybe Alexander Povetkin, we haven't seen Vlad enter a fight where you can look at his opponent and sort of make some scenarios in which he can win. Stiverne has good size. We know he has that good power. Jim, he might have something that can keep him in the fight, keep him patient enough to try to land that one big shot that can change it, just like he did against Arreola. You never know.
ESPN boxing insider Dan Rayfield, you were there. There is a possibility of a heavyweight unification, while Deontay Wilder also factors into the equation here. You talked with Vladimir Klitschko on Saturday. What did you take from that conversation?
Well, he was very, very clear, Jim. Vladimir Klitschko has made 16 title defenses, and very rarely has he been really geeked up to fight a specific opponent. Either it's a mandatory, he was excited to fight a Povetkin, who was unbeaten, to unify with Sultan Ibragimov, to maybe fight against David Haye. But he wants Stiverne. He told me that in unknown certain terms. He wants him next. He said he'll come to the United States to do the fight if that's what it takes, even though he's used to fighting mostly in Germany since the Ibragimov fight in 2008. He wants that fight. Now, whether it can happen or not, that remains to be seen. But Vladimir Klitschko wants Stiverne. He wants that fourth title that used to belong to his brother, and he will do what it takes to get it.
That's good to know. Does this fight and the fact that ESPN was so invested in it breathe life back into a dormant division, Dan?
I think, first of all, anytime you get an exciting fight, especially when there's a title at stake, and this was a fight with a title at stake and a very exciting fight, it definitely breathes life into the division. The fact that ESPN, the largest sports network in the United States, televised this fight in prime time, had it sandwiched in a great time slot at the end of the NFL draft and before the beginning of an NBA playoff game, certainly was a sweet spot. And by the overnight ratings, it reflected that. It did a very good rating, a 0.8, which is something that the network was higher than what the network had hoped for. And I think it does bode well for boxing at the highest level on the network in the future. Consider the fact that the ESPN put this fight on. There was not a lot of promotion, not a lot of publicity about it, and it still drew a number. And that's very significant. If you make the right fight and you put it on and people are interested in it, they will watch.
There were certainly enough eyes checking it out. A success getting a heavyweight title fight on ESPN.
No doubt about it. And we got to see a good ending. We saw some action.
Absolutely. We are making the rounds every Monday right here on the boxing page of ESPN.com. For Dan Rayfield and Brian Campbell, I'm Jim Basketball.